Hey everybody, welcome to my channel. This is Brent Tenlock, TN Artist. I want to thank you for being here. This painting is actually one that I've done for my patrons. The full nearly hour-long lesson is over on Patreon. And all the stencils that are being used throughout this are free to the patrons over there for any active and paid patrons. And so what I'm doing here is showing exactly where we're going. So I painted this and then I walk completely through this entire process. Again, this is a painting done using custom stencils that I've made, and because I wanted to allow people the freedom to be able to paint this but not have to worry about their drawing or painting skills, as far as, hey, can I draw that heron, can I draw those boats and everything else. So you can see all the stencils right there in the video that are available for download from Gumroad. The link is below, and like I said, all of the patrons can get it for free. Any active and paid patrons get that for free. But anyway, enough about that. So with this painting, what I'm doing to kind of give you the quick overview of it is laying in the background using some dark blue and lighter blue to kind of give this glow. And then from there, using about 10 layers, I start adding in all the different effects, working my way forward from the back. So the first thing I do is lay in the background for the sky color, and then start laying in the reflections and ripples in the water to set the stage for that and the way that that looks. And that's just done by stretching out the stencil and then adding in a lighter color and then moving the stencil around, adding in and stretching it, and then layering on top of that even more and some highlight and so forth. So you can see really quickly you can start to get a nice look and painterly feel, and then taking on the sides and start layering in some darker color and then going back over that with a little bit lighter so that you get kind of this nice transition and fading, which really starts drawing you towards the center of the painting and gives you that nice reflective look that you can see there. So that's stencil 1, is working with the ripples and the reflections. Stencil 2 coming up is a moon stencil that I painted. And so what I do with that is then using the ripples as my guide for where my moon is going to be, which I kind of had laid out in my head already from having painted it previously to do this lesson. So then I laid it out and start laying in and painting it roughly with the roller tool and so forth. And right now, just using the stencil to kind of get it marked out, and then from there I can control the size and the shape and everything else with altering it and transforming it so that I can lay it on there. And then once I've got the moon kind of how I like it, I now take my custom star stencil and lay that out as well. And if you didn't see how I make this one, I actually go over completely how to make this one in one of my previous videos that you can watch. And but now all I'm doing is stretching it and enlarging it to get different size stars, and also changing the value from a little bit lighter to where it blends into that glowing area to a little bit darker, even so that some of it's kind of showing there, to even really light as well. So once I've got that done, get rid of the moon stencil and the space stencil. Next is laying in the trees and getting those laid out quickly so I can see where the landscape is. Again, separate layer. The key to stencils for these trees to make them work and really come out well is just moving them around and then layering them over top of each other and stretching them and do it. Because what it does is it gives you the look and feel of those same types of trees growing in different areas and at different stages. So it just kind of ties everything together with your eye and gives you that nice cohesiveness that you really want to have. After I've got that, the next thing is the custom painted stencil for these Japanese boats. These are some fishing boats that I painted and created the stencil for, and getting those laid out on there so that the silhouettes are there as well, and leaving just some touching up some edges and leaving some of the transparency there. After I've got those in, the next one is the Heron stencil that I created, and placing it on there and talking about where not to place it and what size and so forth. But once I've got a general idea of where I want it, all I got to do is just put it on there, and then I can transform the layer to move him around and put exactly where I want. That's the nice thing about doing these on these separate layers, is that I can alter the composition quickly to be able to do it. Now I was putting in these grasses and I realized that I was putting them on the wrong layer. So I undid them all real quick and then put them on their own layer and so that way I can get them and transform. Mainly reason being is that I want to go back in with the heron and play around with it. This is a new stencil that I've created with different birds flocking so that you can use it and move it around and get a nice look for it. And then once I've got that there, I get rid of that stencil too. So now I have the entire thing laid out, and I can start playing around with some of the details and some of the looks and feel, like adding in just subtle shadow areas and highlights to the heron so that it gives it just a hint of volume and details, but there's not a whole lot there. It's still staying very impressionistic. It's giving the quote-unquote impression of the details. So I'm working on that, and then go to the boats and start doing the same thing. First thing I wanted to do was put the little lines for where the lanterns are hanging off the end of the boat, and so I did that. And then going in with the airbrush tool, I use it to start, building up some glowing areas to give a little interest. And the thing I like about this is that most of the color in this is a dark bluish or dark purple, so these lanterns really pop on the scene because they're complementary colors to what you have the background built out of. So it really gives a nice pop to it, gives some interest to it, and you can play around more with it and do it. But the whole thing with this wasn't trying to get necessarily to that super refined and finished painting, but instead show how to do the steps so that you can quickly lay out a painting and understand how to do it. So then after I got that done, the next thing I'm doing is laying in some highlights with that, and that's just done a couple different ways. This is showing how to do it using the airbrush tool, and then the one that I find that really works well for it is the cloud brush that I have, because it not only paints but it also blends really well. So then I talk about using that and doing it. I do include that brush and the impasto brush as well with the stencils that can be downloaded from Gumroad. So that way, if you want to get those, you can get them there. Like I said, if you're an active paid patron, you get it for free and save yourself that money, because I don't want to pay twice for it. So with the membership and with the resource. So the resource is included. And then from here, it's just, kind of playing around with the lighting a little bit and giving a little more interest. And then the next thing that I wanted to talk to people about was, okay, using the impasto brush, for example, how to go in and refine the stencil. Not only does it kind of clean up some of the pixelization you get from the stencils, because these stencils aren't made to be the end result. They're made to be the placeholder and the builder for the details that you want to do. So I talk about how to do that and how to add in some of the highlights and stuff. But then as I was doing it, I realized, oh wait, I've got this on the wrong layer. So I just quickly erased it, jumped down to my tree layer, and started doing it again and showing how you can play around with it and get those highlights, but that you got to be careful because you don't want too many highlights so that it looks like there's snow or something on the leaves and branches and stuff. So doing that. And then once I had some of this kind of in and detailed and talked about how to do it, then I show how to take the freehand tool, selection tool, and start just kind of really quickly sketching out trees. Again, not a real detailed drawing skill needed. If you can make a zigzag line, you can start adding this in. So this is not something that you have to have drawing skills to do. You just make a zigzag and then take the impasto brush, let it kind of fill in where it wants to fill in, and then the next thing you know, you got trees, and have some different look to those stencils. And so and again, that's the point. The stencils are just made to be placeholders and foundation to build off of. And then talking about using the impasto brush and selection tool to just, if you wanted to make a round tree so that they're not all evergreens and stuff, then you can do that. Just refining the shoreline a little here, and then some of the final details, and then from here I start adding in clouds on different layers, and then erasing some of it, adding more in, and erasing some of it, just kind of building through. Anyway, super quick overview of the lesson. Hopefully you got something out of it just by me talking about it, because I definitely want to be able to provide value to you as just a YouTube subscriber, and that way you can get something out of it, because not everybody can afford to be a patron, even though it's only $3 a month to get it. $10 a month gets you high-res versions of the artworks that you see created. But I want to make sure that you're getting some stuff here, and I do have more free lessons coming up that are free to everybody that I'll be putting on YouTube as well. But I just wanted to give you this quick overview and talk about it. One thing here is that as I put these in, you'll see me select that heron by control clicking on the layer. It allows it to select the contents, and then I can delete everything that's over top of the heron to really make him pop from in the foreground. Anyway, I appreciate you watching it. I hope you got something out of this. Let me know any comments or suggestions or anything that you need, and consider being a patron. Thanks again for watching. Thanks again for subscribing. Make sure to share this across everything else, and I'll see you on the next one.